بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أجمعين. Okay, welcome everyone. We are live with class 11, I believe. We're starting with verse number 31. So welcome everyone. Verse number 31. Surah Ar-Ra'd. بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Wa and lo, if anna, that Qur'an, a Qur'an, suyirat, would cause to move or remove, be with it, al-jibal, the mountains, or uta'at, break apart, be with, again the same word, with it, al-ard, the earth, or kullima, made to speak, bihi, with it, al-mauta, the dead, bal, nay, or rather, lillahi, for Allah, al-amru, the matter, jami'an, all of it. This is hamzatul istifham, afalam, so do not they. Yay'as alladhina amanu, yay'as is to give up hope. It also means to know. It has two different meanings that are given. Alladhina, those, amanu, who have believed, and that, lo, if, yasha'u, willed, Allah willed, la hada, la here is for surely or certainly, hada, guided, an-nasa, the people, jami'an, all of them. Yani, had Allah wanted, he could have guided all of the people, all of humanity. Wa and la yazal, when it comes together, it actually means remain. وَلَا يَزَالْ, and still remain, الَّذِينَ, those, كَفَرُوا, who disbelieved, تُصِيبُهُمْ, afflict them, tusib is afflicting, and whom is them. So afflicting them, bima, because of which, because of. So this is ba, sababiyya, sabab, cause. Because of, ma, that. Because of that, or because of what. So ma can be translated as that. It can also be translated as what. Bima, because of what. Sana'u, they have done. This is from the word sana'a, which is to make. Sana'u, done. They have done. Qari'atun, an affliction or calamity. Or the hullu, it comes or descends, qariban, close, min, from, darihim, dar, home, him, them, or their, darihim, their home, hatta, until, ya'tiya, comes, wa'ad, promise Allah, wa'adullah, the promise, until the promise of Allah comes. Inna, indeed Allah, la, does not, yukhlifu, go against or fail or go back, al-mi'ad, the promise. Yani, indeed Allah does not fail in his promise, but literally the promise. Okay, so let's do the running translation for 31. If there was any Quran, yani a recitation, we had explained this last time that Qur'anan, linguistically, it means a recitation or an oral recital or something that is read out loud. So when you say Qur'anan, literally a Qur'an, yani a recitation that is recited out loud or orally. Okay, so that's literally what the word Qur'anan means. So here the translation, I'm going to read a couple if I find the second one different. Let me read this first one. And if there was any Quran that is a recitation by which the mountains would be removed, or the earth would be broken apart, or the dead would be made to speak, it would have been this Quran. Now that is the implication. It would have been this Quran is a parenthetical phrase mentioned here in the translation to complete the meaning, to convey the implied meaning that is present in the Arabic. But to Allah belongs the affair entirely. Then have those who believed not accepted that had Allah willed, He would have guided the people, all of them. And those who disbelieve do not cease to be struck. Do not cease to be struck for what they have done by calamity, or it will descend near their home until there comes the promise of Allah. Indeed, Allah does not fail in His promise. Okay, let me give you another translation that I have here. If there were a recitation, Qur'anan, that could cause the mountains to move or the earth to split or the dead to speak, it would have been this Qur'an. But all matters are by Allah's will. Have the believers not yet realized that had Allah willed, He could have guided all of humanity, and disasters will continue to afflict the disbelievers or strike close to their homes for their misdeeds until Allah's promise comes to pass. Surely Allah never fails in His promise. So that is also a very clear translation. So Sheikh Sadi mentions in his tafsir that if there was any divine book out of all the divine books that have been sent that would have caused the mountains to move or the earth to be cleft asunder or for the dead to be able to speak, it would have been this Quran, which is right here in our hands, right? SubhanAllah. Ibn Kathir mentions, and just to give you some background, as you already know, this makes perfect sense in the context of the disbelievers always asking for signs. They wanted a sign that would leave no room for kufr or disbelief. But again, that is not the point. Allah doesn't want to send signs that leave no other choice than to believe, because that's like forcing someone to believe, right? But this verse is impressing that the Quran already has everything within it in terms of its eloquence and its irrefutable proofs and the way the evidences resonate with the fitrah. It already has everything that, if there was anything that could cause amazing signs, the kind of, that you ask for. If there was any Quran that would make the mountains to move from their place and the dead to speak and so on, it would have been this Quran. So it's just a lack of sight of the heart. They're not able to see with their hearts. It is the blindness of the hearts because of which they're unable to see and be impacted by the Quran. Allah says that it's not, what becomes blind really are the hearts, right? The hearts, when they go blind, then not even something like the Quran can benefit. Not even the presence of someone like the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ can benefit. And unfortunately, this is what happened to the Quraysh that died upon kufr or shirk. Ibn Kathir mentions here, because of its marvelous eloquence that defies the ability of mankind and jinns, even if all of them gather their forces together to invent something like it, or even a surah like it, they would not be able to do so. And this is why this Quran is a sign after which another should not have been asked for. Yet, as he says, these mushrikeen disbelieve in the Quran and reject it. Okay, then the verse goes on to say, بَلْ لِلَّهِ الْأَمْرُ جَمِيعًا, that to Allah belongs the affair entirely, but all matters are by Allah's will. So what is this referring to? The matter, of sending signs. That is fully in Allah's hands alone. He sends signs that are in accordance to His will, according to His wisdom, at the time and place that He chooses. Again, we worship Allah on His terms, not on our terms, not through our demands, right? So Sadi mentions that what business do the disbelievers have in even suggesting the various demands that they were demanding be brought forth? It's like, it's not your domain, like stay in your lane, right? Who are you to say, give us this sign and that sign, and then we'll believe? Who are you to bargain and negotiate with the Lord of the worlds who created you? You're in no such position. And again, this shows their ignorance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and also just making excuses to not believe. We can always make excuses to not do what we don't want to do, right? We can always make excuses for our failure but then it's not going to change into a success as long as we have the crutch of excuse holding us back, right? Tafhim mentions in this regard, this verse has been addressed to the believers who are feeling uneasy that no such sign was being sent as was demanded by the disbelievers. So if you look at the translation of this verse, then have those who believed not accepted that had Allah willed, He would have guided the people, all of them, right? We find that in the translation. Also, other translations, same thing, have the believers not yet realized that had Allah willed, He could have guided all of humanity. So, because of the sincerity of the believers, they were just like, oh, if Allah would just send a sign, of course He could. If Allah would just send a sign that would make these disbelievers believe and they could see the same truth that we are seeing. So it was coming from a place of khair and eagerness for the iman of the people that they lived with, right? But here, this verse, as Tafhim states, has been addressed to the believers who are feeling uneasy that no such sign was being sent down, as the kuffar were demanding. They thought that such a sign would convince the disbelievers and they would accept Islam. Therefore, when no such sign was sent, they became all the more uneasy for the lack of the fulfillment of the demand that gave rise to doubts about the prophethood of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the question posed in this verse is meant to remove that uneasiness of the Muslims. It's like, do you think that they would have embraced Islam if such and such signs had been shown to them? All of a sudden, along with the surah of the Quran, if there was another sign, you think they would have believed? Are you under the delusion that they're quite ready to accept Islam and they're just waiting for that one sign and everything's going to change? Do you think that those people who have failed to see the light of the truth and the teachings of the Quran and the phenomena of the universe and the pure life of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the wonderful change, that really the transformation of the lives of the Sahaba who were just like them a day before, they would see the light of the truth if the mountains were moved, if the earth was cleft asunder, if the dead were coming out of their graves. That is really not the point. And to Allah belongs the command entirely, whether He wants to send a sign or not. And He's not showing any sign or the sign that they demanded because it doesn't fit His divine scheme laid out for the guidance of the human being. The real object, the real purpose is to show hidayah, to show guidance to humanity through the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the point is not to compel them into believing in his prophet, into submitting to Islam, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants that people should gain hidayah by thinking, observing wisely, seeing, not by just seeing, incredible signs, unnatural signs, supernatural, that's the word I'm looking for. Not supernatural signs. That's not how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't operate like that. His hidayah, his whole system of sending messengers and sending books, that's the method by which He wants humanity to be guided on the basis of voluntary choice so that iman counts, and not through supernatural signs, which are equivalent to forcing the human being to believe, because they would leave no room for disbelief. And that's what Yawm al-Qiyamah is going to be, right? It's going to be so overwhelming, and that is when the mountains will be removed from their places. That is when the earth will, be cleft asunder, or as Allah wills. That is when the dead will come out of their graves, right? What is that? Those are not signs. That's the day of judgment. Then there's no لم ينفع نفسا إيمانها لم تكن آمنت من قبل, right? On that day, it's not going to benefit any soul that had not believed previously. Okay, so the point is not to give signs that really belong to the day of judgment, after which iman will be, believing at that moment will not count, will be of no use at that moment. The point is to believe through using our mind, through connecting with our fitrah, to pondering over the verses Allah sends so that we may ponder over them. Or As the verse alludes to, that, had Allah willed, He would have guided all of humanity. Everyone could have just been born believing in a way that, and yes, people are born in the fitrah, but in a way that they would just always believe, right? Had Allah willed, it could have been that way, but that is not the case. Ibn Kathir, rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentions there is not a miracle or evidence more eloquent or effective on the heart and mind than this Quran. Had Allah revealed it to a mountain, you would see the mountain shake and humbled from the fear of Allah. And we know from, the verses in the Quran that Allah actually presented this amana to the heavens and the earth, right? And they refused, they did not want to take on this burden, this responsibility, this accountability before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the human being has that burden of accountability. And that is supposed to be channeled or executed through the guidance of the Quran. And that is what makes it easy and bearable, right? There's a hadith in the Sahih that the Rasul said, ما من نبي إلا وقد أوتي ما آمن على مثله البشر. Every prophet was given a miracle, the type of which would make some people believe. وإنما كان الذي أوتيته وحيا أوحاه الله إلي فأرجو أن أكون أكثرهم تابعا يوم القيامة. This is a very beautiful, profound hadith about the nature of the Quran, the nature of the miracle that our Rasul was given, and what that means in terms of his followers on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Every prophet was given a miracle, the type of which would make some people believe. What I was given, however, is a revelation from Allah to me, and I hope that I will have the most following among them on Yawm al-Qiyamah, right? On the day of resurrection. So Ibn Kathir explains how this hadith indicates that every prophet's miracle disappeared upon the death of that prophet, right? You had, for example, the she-camel of Salih alayhi salam, right? You had the staff of Musa alayhi salam, right? You had the miracles that Isa alayhi salam performed. But all of those miracles ceased upon the death of their prophet, and of course with Isa alayhi salam he was raised. But the miracle that our Rasul was given is the Quran itself, which is, subhanallah, everlasting. It will remain as evidence for all times. As long as it is there, it is a proof beyond the lifetime of the Prophet. It continues to be an ever living, continuous miracle beyond the lifespan of our Rasul. So he mentions how the miracle of the Quran will never end, nor will it become old the more it is read, nor will scholars ever have enough of it. The Quran is serious and not meant for jest. Any tyrant that abandons it, Allah will destroy him. He who seeks guidance in other than the Quran, Allah will misguide him. End quote from Ibn Kathir. I mean, if you think about the sheer number of tafsir that have been written on the Quran and continue to be written, subhanAllah, many of those scholars, if not all of them, benefiting from the legacy of knowledge of the previous ulama of tafsir. Everyone building upon the previous, but there's still more to say. There's still more to reflect on. Even a class such as ours, a small, humble class like ours, subhanAllah, still gaining insights from the Quran. Still, we feel that the Quran speaks to us, that it gives us pointers for our daily lives, for our spiritual lives, for our relationships with others, and how to connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Its verses and stories continue to inspire us. And how many books and volumes and commentaries continue to be written even now as we speak on the Quran. It's been over 1400 years, subhanAllah. And this is the only book that is memorized by heart, cover to cover. And each hafiz and hafila is like a miracle in the sense that their hearts contain that ever-living miracle. You don't have any other religious text, of this, subhanAllah, depth and size that is committed to memory in that fashion. There's something that, miraculous for any group of people, Muslim, non-Muslim, to ponder over, subhanAllah. And the one word I want to explain before answering Nihad's question, bima sanu qari'a. So qari'a is an affliction or disaster. That here the verse mentions that, and those who disbelieve do not cease to be struck by a calamity for what they have done, or descends near their homes. And in the translation I shared with you initially, and disasters will continue to afflict the disbelievers. Okay, so qari'a, and we have, surah of the Quran also named after this. And it basically means a disaster or an affliction or a calamity, which here we see is coming or descending on the people or close to their homes as a result of their sins. Bima sana'u. So this is a clear evidence that sins have consequences. There's a saying among the scholars that one who thinks that his or her sins have no consequence or have no impact or effect is either ignorant or insane, right? It's not possible for some type of effect of sin to occur. If that happens on it can happen on a spiritual, personal basis where a person becomes desensitized to the sin or grows distant from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala displeased with them, and we seek Allah's refuge from that state, or an actual disaster or punishment befalls them bima sana'u, because of what they have done. So sins are a cause that invite affliction or disaster, and sometimes the disaster is spiritual and imperceptible. It's not something you can actually see or experience physically, but it is something you can experience spiritually. And that is that desensitization to the sin, enjoyment of the sin, not enjoying the dhikr of Allah, not enjoying the halaqat of knowledge and Allah's remembrance, and feeling distance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, disconnected from your akhirah, unmotivated to strive for that which will benefit you in the long term. All of these are impacts of sin, and we seek Allah's refuge from having those hearts. Nihad had asked about what is the amana, that is referenced in the Quran, that was offered to the heavens and the earth, and they refused to carry it, and the human being carried it. So that amana has been explained as taklif. Taklif means responsibility or accountability. The state of being accountable for your actions, the state of being responsible for your actions is called taklif. And a baligh Muslim who has reached the age of puberty is sane, is considered mukallaf, which is from the same root word that the word taklif comes from, yani is responsible for their actions. So this is the great burden, the great amana, the great responsibility that we as human beings have been charged with by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And this is the burden that all of us bear. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to discharge our duties through the guidance and the light of the Quran. I hope that is somewhat clarifying. Okay, let's go on to verse 32. وَلَقَدْ, and surely, وَلَقَدْ اسْتُهْزِئَ, and surely or indeed were mocked, بِرُسُلٍ, with the messengers, but it means the messengers were mocked. Min, from, qablik. Qabl, before, kaf, at the end means your. It's a pronoun, it's an attached pronoun. Min qablika, before you. فَأَمْلَيْتُ, so amlaytu, I gave respite. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaking, so I gave respite. لِلَّذِينَ, that first lam means to, T-O, to, الَّذِينَ, those, kafaru, who disbelieved. ثُمَّ, then, أَخَذْتُهُمْ, I took, أَخَذْتُ, I took, whom, I took them, yani I took them to task. So كيف, how, kana, was, iqab, my punishment, but it means my punishment, right? So how was punishment, yani my punishment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking here, verse 32 translation. And already were other messengers ridiculed before you, mocked before you, and I extended the time of those who disbelieved, then I seized them, and how terrible was my penalty. So subhanallah, what we need to understand is that when we don't understand why Allah is giving respite to the kuffar, to the oppressors, we have to understand it's only for a short time. So when it boggles our mind, right, when we are just unable to comprehend why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, allowing, for example, the oppression and massacre and slaughter of the Palestinian people to continue. The flip side of that question is, why are the oppressors being given respite? We need to understand that we just don't comprehend that this is Allah's respite to the oppressors, and respite is just that, yani it is for a very short time. But we just, we have a difficult time internalizing that because we do not see the larger picture, right? So no matter how long it seems, it's been a very difficult last 3 months for us as an ummah, right? October, November, December, oh my God, almost January, almost 4 months, right? It's been a very long time for us to witness the genocide of our people, right? But realize the respite that the other side is getting, no matter how long it seems, it is ultimately temporary. And even the oppressor falls into that delusion that we kind of have of, how long is this going to last? It seems like it's been going on forever. And even the oppressor falls into their delusion of power and authority and an ability to massacre and oppress. And on account of that respite, the oppressor is deluded into thinking that they've evaded punishment and they've gotten their way and they've gotten away with things like international crimes, war crimes, etc., right? But subhanAllah, once Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's designated respite time is over and he seizes that aggressor, that seizing is forever. Okay. So once Allah, so yes, he gives respite, but it's limited, even though we can't realize it. But once he seizes, then it's forever. That will not be temporary, right? And there is no one to release from Allah's impenetrable grip. So same thing here in this verse, don't let the people be deluded. Yes, you, Rasulullah, are having a hard time, just like messengers before you were mocked and ridiculed, and they were given respite, and these people are also being given respite. But look at what I did when I took them to task, right? Then look how my punishment was. No one can imagine how terrible it was for those that it descended upon in this world, as many nations were punished in this world with a punishment that was annihilation, that was extermination. And we don't know, we cannot imagine what that adab, that iqab is going to look like for them in the next world, right? And we also have this concept from the Sahihain, Bukhari and Muslim, where the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Inna Allah la yumli lil-zalim hatta idha akhadahu lam yuflit," which means, verily, Allah gives respite to the unjust until when he seizes him, he never lets go of him. وَكَذَلِكَ أَخْذُ رَبِّكَ إِذَا أَخَذَ الْقُرَى وَهِيَ ظَالِمَةٌ إِنَّ أَخْذَهُ أَلِيمٌ شَدِيدٌ. Then the Rasul recited this verse from Surah Hud: such is the punishment of your Lord when he seizes, yani the people of the town, or the town rather, while they're doing wrong. Verily, his punishment is painful. Okay, Allah subhanahu to protect us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's punishment and deliver our brothers and sisters from their plight. Okay, let's look at verse number 33. Afaman, is fa, so, man, the one, huwa, he, qa'imun, standing. Okay, here it doesn't mean literally standing. Here it means the one who knows, the one who is present. Ala, upon, kulli, each, nafs, soul, be, with, ma, that which, kasabat, it has earned. and جعلوا, they have made lillahi, for Allah, shuraka, partners. قل, say, سموهم, name them. Will you or shall you, or تنبئونه, are you going to inform him? So this is from the word naba'a, like Surah An-Naba means the news, right? تنبئونه, so it's saying, are you going to give him news? Yani, are you going to inform him? Who? Him meaning Allah. Be with ma, that, la, not يعلم, not knows, doesn't know, fi, in, al-ard, the earth, or بظاهر. ظاهر is that which is apparent. Min, from al-qawl, the word. That which is apparent, that which is superficial, that which is random or arbitrary is the meaning here. And we'll have this make more sense in the flowing translation. Bal, nay, or rather, zuyina, has been beautified, lilladina, for those, kafaru, that disbelieved, makruhum, their makr, or their plan, or their path, or their plot, wa, and suddu, they were barred, an, from as-sabil, the path, wa, and may, whoever, yudlil, goes astray, Allah, and whoever Allah lets go astray, fa, so, ma, not, lahu, la, for who, him, so not for him, min, from, had, a guide, yani there's no guide for him. Okay, let's do 33 flowing. Then is he who is a maintainer of every soul, knowing what it has earned like any other. But to Allah they have attributed partners. Say, name them, or do you inform him of that which he knows not upon the earth, or of what is apparent, that is alleged of speech? Rather, their own plan has been made attractive to those who disbelieve, and they have been averted from the way, and whomever Allah leaves astray, there will be for him no guide. Another translation which may help us understand this: is there any equal to the vigilant one who knows what every soul commits? So this is the reference to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And again, the context is that of shirk, right? Like you have all these other partners with Allah, but are any of them equal to the one who is qa'im, who is upon, who is vigilant, who is knowing what every soul commits? So qa'im is like someone who's standing, and he's someone who is over guarding, knowing, vigilant, ever watchful. Ala, upon every soul with regards to what it has earned. Yet the pagans have associated others with Allah in worship. Say, O Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, name them, yani name these idols or partners. Name these partners that you've associated with him. Or do you mean to inform him of something he does not know on the earth? Or are these gods just empty words? In fact, the disbelievers' falsehood has been made so appealing to them that they have been turned away from the path, and whoever Allah leaves to stray will be left with no guide. And Shaykh Sadi mentions here an explanation of this part, the beginning part of the verse, أَفَمَنْ هُوَ قَائِمٌ عَلَى كُلِّ نَفْسٍ بِمَا كَسَبَتْ. Is there any equal to the vigilant one who knows what every soul commits? With regards to, he says, بِالْجَزَاءِ الْعَاجِلِ وَالْعَاجِلِ بالعدل والقسط وهو الله تبارك وتعالى كمن ليس كذلك. يعني, is there anyone else who is upon every soul, and he is the one who's in charge of the recompense in this world as well as in the next world? He is the one who's in charge of complete justice with regards to this recompense. This is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who can have such intimate full knowledge of what every single soul earns, and that recompense will be according to that minute, detailed, precise, deep knowledge, which only he can have. Is there any comparison between him and these other shuraka, these other partners that have no reality? Right? There is no comparison. There is nothing like him, and he is the all-hearing and the all-seeing. So here, the mushrikeen, are taken to task. It's like a conversation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling the Prophet, say this to them. And it's so logical. Like, how can you associate something arbitrarily? Give me their names. Who are they? Do they have any of Allah's attributes? Right? وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. And there is none like unto Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you're truthful in your claim, then let's hear some names. Who are these shuraka? Who are these associates? Allah is the knower of the seen and the unseen. So if he is not aware of any such sharik, any partner that he has, it means it does not exist. You cannot claim to have knowledge. You cannot claim to be able to inform Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about something in the heavens and the earth when he is all-knowing of everything and is the creator of everything. So you can't make this claim that, yeah, there are other shuraka, there are other partners with Allah, and Allah doesn't know about them. Astaghfirullah. So what that means is, since Allah does not recognize them, and it's clear from the Quran, they do not, there can be no partner with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then the conclusion on this matter of shirk is that any and all shuraka / partners are simply arbitrary names. This is the import of the part of the verse that says, so the first part is, are you going to inform him of something he doesn't know on the earth? Or apparent, that which is arbitrarily said of words, random names that you have made up. Rather, their own plan has been made attractive to those who disbelieve. So, because of their kufr, this arbitrary random designation of gods has been made to seem really reasonable and okay. And, although these are simply allegations, they're simply claims that there are other gods, that there are other partners. So that is the conclusion. Shirk is arbitrary names, and this way has been made appealing to the disbelievers, and they have blocked and they have been blocked. They have been averted from the right path. So this is also one of the really serious consequences of sin, and in this case, shirk, is that then you are blocked from the right path. You are blocked from the right. We're unable to have tawfiq to do the right thing, right? طريق المستقيمة الموصلة إلى الله وإلى دار كرامته, right? So when you are blocked from the path, Sheikh Sadi says, you are blocked from the straight path that leads to him and to the abode of his honor. Okay, let's look at verse 34. Verse 34. Lahum, for them, adab, a punishment, in al-hayat dunya, al-hayat, the life, ad-dunya, the world. For them is a punishment in the life of this world. Wa, and la, surely adab, the punishment al-akhirah, of the hereafter, ashaq, is much harder, is much more severe. Wama, and not, lahum, for them, min Allah, from Allah, min, from, waq, protector. Verse 34. For them will be punishment in the life of this world, and the punishment of the hereafter is more severe, and they will not have from Allah any protector. So for them is severe punishment, severe humiliation in this world, as we saw many of the Quraysh who died upon kufr in the Battle of Badr. The humiliation, like people like Abu Jahl and his like faced, So that was their punishment in this world, which is only the beginning, and the punishment of the hereafter is far worse. Because everything in the akhirah, as students of Quran, we are learning and we inshallah have internalized, everything in the akhirah is compounded beyond imagination, both in terms of reward as well as punishment. So when you talk about the punishment of the hereafter being much worse than this world's punishment, whatever that may be, al-akhirah, it's described, that punishment of the akhirah is described as ashaq, many times harder. It's in the superlative form, ashaq, much harder, many times harder, right? And you see this in the verse of Tafsir, like Ibn Kathir, Allah Ta'ala, he says, indeed, and just as Rasulullah stated, the torment of this life ends, but the torment of the akhirah is everlasting in a fire that is 70 times hotter than our fire, where there are chains whose thickness and hardness are unimaginable. Yes, we know about the fire, but do we know how hot it is? Yes, we know about the chains, but do we know how thick they are? Do we know how hard, unbreakable they are, how permanent they are? And if you look at other verses in the Quran about the punishment, like verses 25 to 26 from chapter 89, فَيَوْمَئِذٍ لَا يُعَذِّبُ عَذَابَهُ أَحَدٌ وَلَا يُوثِقُ وَثَاقَهُ أَحَدٌ. So on that day, none will punish as he will punish, and none will bind as he will bind. Subhanallah. And Ibn Kathir continues with the description of the kuffar and their abode in the akhirah, as we see in Surah Al-Furqan. And for those who deny the hour, we have prepared a flaming fire. When it sees them from a far place, yani when the fire sees the people that are going to be thrown into it, when it sees them from a faraway place, they will hear its raging and its roaring. And when they shall be thrown into a narrow place thereof, chained together, they will exclaim therein for destruction. They will ask for destruction. They will ask for death. Death would be the sweetest rescue for them at that time. I notice how it says they're going to be thrown into a narrow place, right? So with all the vastness that Jahannam must be, because of all the, only Allah knows, great number of people that are going to be thrown into it. Unfortunately, the majority of humanity, right, is astaghfirullah, Allah protect us. But yet, part of the punishment is that they're going to be thrown into this narrow, something when it's tight. One of the books I was reading about Palestine spoke about the various types of torture and prison conditions that the inmates have to go through. And one of them, I believe it was a jail that was 3 by 3 meters, if I recall correctly. And there were 70 to 75 people stuffed within it. And even the author, as he was writing, it says, it sounds unbelievable. It sounds, unreal, that how could that be? But he was in it, and he said that this is what it was. So part of the punishment is just like stuff people like sardines into a narrow place. And this is what we see here, that when they shall be thrown into a narrow place, chained together, they will call for destruction. And they will call for their own annihilation, for their own death. Exclaim not or call not today for one death, but call for many deaths. Say, is that torment better, or the paradise of eternity promised for those who have taqwa? It will be theirs as reward and as a final destination. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from this horrible punishment. For if Allah does not save us, who can come to our rescue? Whether it is a punishment of this world, if He doesn't save you here, who can save you? And if He doesn't save you there in the akhirah, then where can you run to, right? وَمَا لَهُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ مِن وَاقٍ. As the verse ends, and they'll have not any protector from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Obviously, who can protect you from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? If He decides to punish you, astaghfirullah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us all. Verse 35, and then look at the beautiful contrast now. Verse 35, Mathalu, the likeness, al-Jannah, of the paradise or of the garden, allati, that, وعد has been promised al-muttaqun to the muttaqun, to those who feared Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So notice we talk about the promises of Allah in the Quran. This is one of his promises, that he will give Jannah to the muttaqun, to those who feared him. And what is the likeness of that garden that has been promised to the muttaqun? Well, it's like tajri, flows, min, from tahtiha, taht, under ha, it, from under it, al-anhar, the rivers. Ukuluha, its food, daim, is eternal, is forever. Well, willuha, and its will, its shade. Willuha, its shade, yani the shade of the garden. And subhanAllah, when you read about the shades of paradise, they are dark and thick and provide, coolness in a way that is, most delicious and delightful. Only inshallah when we get there we'll realize. And ever deepening. Subhanallah, it's a beautiful description. Tilka, that, uqaba, the end or the destination. الذين اتقوا, الذين, of those اتقوا, who feared. Wa, and uqaba, the destination, al-kafirin, of the disbelievers. An-nar is the fire. 35, flowing. The example, yani the description of paradise which the righteous have been promised is that beneath which rivers flow. Its fruit is lasting and its shade, yani, and so is its shade. That is the consequence for the righteous, and the consequence for the disbelievers is the fire. So here uqba is translated as consequence, but you can also translate it as destination or the end. Okay, the end that you're going towards. So here, our favorite topic, the likeness, the description of the paradise that the muttaqin have been promised. Ibn Kathir says, or I think this is actually Sheikh Sadi, الذين تركوا ما نهاهم الله عن ولم يقصروا فيما أمرهم به. Okay, so this is the likeness of this paradise that has been promised to those who feared Allah, al-muttaqun. He describes them as those that abstained from that which Allah had prohibited, and they did not fall short in fulfilling what He had commanded them to do. This is the taklif. This is the amana that we talked about earlier. Not an easy task to, consistently abstain from everything Allah has told us to abstain from, and it is a test, and to not fall short in that which Allah has commanded us to bring forth, right? But if by Allah's tawfiq we are able to do that, then that Jannah, inshallah, will be ours, where the food is eternal. The food is, subhanAllah, shall never ever run out, and its shade will be eternal and forever. And uqba, yani the destination, is the beautiful destination for the muttaqun, those who are driving towards that destination, driving towards that paradise. Whereas for the kuffar, for those who reject the message, there is nothing but the burning fire. And again, we cannot describe Jannah. Even the verses of the Quran, they explain to us whatever Allah has willed, for us to know in this world about it. But really, it is beyond human imagination, as the Rasul has told us. It is beyond what any human being can think of. It is other than that. So to capture it in human language is impossible. To capture it in human imagination, as the Hadith tells us, is impossible. So we just have, estimated descriptions. We really, inshallah, it is something to experience. We have other descriptions like from Surah Muhammad, مَثَلُ الْجَنَّةِ الَّتِي وُعِدَ الْمُتَّقُونَ, and this is a beautiful, one of our favorite descriptions of the rivers of paradise, right? And has very similar wording to the wordings that have been used here in verse 35, which says مَثَلُ الْجَنَّةِ, And again, this Surah Muhammad, this verse starts off also with مثل الجنة التي وعد المتقون. So it's the same exact beginning, right? What is it? Surah Muhammad tells us فيها in it أنهار من ماء غير آسن وأنهار من لبن لم يتغير طعمه وأنهار من خمر لذة للشاربين وأنهار من عسل مصفى ولهم فيها من كل ثمرات ومغفرة. Beautiful, beautiful description of paradise, which those who have taqwa have been promised. In it are rivers of water, the taste and smell of which are not changed. Rivers of wine, delicious to those who drink. And rivers of clarified honey, therein for them is every kind of fruit and forgiveness, subhanAllah. So really, this is something that we should strive for the best of our ability, because you don't want to miss out. It is something sometimes we miss out on a party, a wedding, a gathering, and you feel bad. You feel like, you really missed out on something, FOMO. But imagine that. There's no way to deal with the FOMO of missing out on paradise, right? If you're missing out on paradise, it is just unacceptable, unbearable. And there's an authentic narration, the two Sahihain, Bukhari and Muslim, and the author Ibn Abbas narrates about the eclipse prayer that where the Sahaba said, Ya Rasulullah, while you were standing in prayer, we saw you reach for something with your hand and then you brought it back. And he said, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Inni ra'aytu al-jannah, or uridu al-jannah, fatanawaltu minha unquda, وَلَوْ أَخَذْتُهُ لَأَكَلْتُ مِنْهُ مَا بَقِيَتِ الدُّنْيَا. This is amazing narration, subhanAllah. He said, I saw paradise, or was shown paradise, and I reached for a cluster of grapes or some other fruit, and had I kept it, had I, been able to get that fruit, had I kept it, had I gotten it, you would have eaten from it as long as this life remains, subhanAllah. Unbelievable. So, this is the allusion to ukuluha da'im, right? That its food, its fruit is da'im, it's eternal, to the point that if the Rasul had been able to grab some of that, and somehow brought it back to the Sahaba, they would have eaten it forever. It would have been da'im, it would have been like, unending, it would never finish. And another narration in the Sahih of Muslim, يأكل أهل الجنة ويشربون ولا يتخمطون ولا يتغوطون ولا يبولون طعامهم جشاء كريح المسك ويلهمون التسبيح والتقديس كما يلهمون النفس. Lovely narration, authentic from Sahih Muslim, which means the people of paradise eat and drink, and they do not need to blow their noses or answer the call of nature or urinate, for they pass the food, excrements, and belches, which smell like musk. They'll be inspired to praise and glorify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as spontaneously as they breathe. So just like, our breathing takes no effort, but to say subhanallah, alhamdulillah, Allahu akbar, la ilaha illallah, subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanallah azim, to say the verse, God, it takes effort, takes consciousness. It's still easy, but it's not like breathing. But subhanAllah, in Jannah, our taqdees, our tasbih, our remembrance of Allah is going to become like breathing, subhanAllah, an apt description and ability, right, for people that inhabit His paradise. I did want to conclude here